Here's today's project. This is a flat belt driven pedestal grinder. Very, very simple device. You have the cast pedestal, the grinder body itself is separate, and a couple mallet bearings, and I've already removed them, but this one has a couple guards that the previous owner made out of old brake drums. Kind of funny, you can see the brake pad wear inside, and they're very thin. So anyway, they're made well, and they almost look like they were made from the factory. They're made very well. So I'll put those back on after cleaning. Also, the tool rests are here, also made by the previous owner, the fellow I bought it from. Made very well, very sturdy. It seems 9 times out of 10 that you find a pedestal grinder, a flat belt era, the tool holders will be completely gonzo, so we're not sure why that is exactly. So got those. The bearings are interesting in this, in that the shaft is grooved and the bearings have divots, 2 each cap, so 2 here to prevent end play. It's kind of neat. You see that in sawmills often. When it comes to flat belt machines, it's very important to figure out how you're going to turn them on and off from the main shaft. So this one's a simple single pulley. So we're going to need to cobble together counter shaft for it. Generally a grinder, well, abrasive grinders, you need high speed. So on the roof you'll have a big pulley above to drive, and then you'll have 2 smaller pulleys that are the driver and idler off the main shaft. So it's always difficult to find matching flat belt pulleys. So got lucky here, found 2 identical ones. They're 1.125 and this is 1 inch. So I think well, I guess it depends what we find, if we have to bore one out or put bushings in the others. These are, the only downside is these are only 2-inch faces. This guy is 3.5 or 4. So we're not going to get all the power out of it. We could, but that's fine. There's only a 1/4 horse motor on the roof and 2-inch belts driving this thing. As long as you're not really burying the tool in it, it'll work just fine. There's a couple hangers here. These are counter shaft specific hangers with this arm that can hold the shifting linkage. The only thing I don't like about these hangers is that they're the side bearing mount type, so they support the bearing block from the side, which means you need a solid bearing as opposed to a split one that you can put anywhere on the shaft. But for counter shafts it's fine, because normally both your bearings are at the ends and you don't have to take any pulleys out of the way to align the bearing. So those are the hangers, they're ready. Here is a shifting linkage, an old one, came out of Morrisville Foundry in Vermont. Very simple. This fork guides your belt. This top of the lever is attached to the roof, and as you push and pull, it just guides the belt from the idling pulley, which is just sitting on the shaft, to the driving pulley, which is has a set screw to attach it to the shaft. So I'll also say this is kind of a neat marking on this guy. It's marked Petrie's Special. Now, H.W. Petrie was a machinery distribution company in Canada. Normally they just took a tag and slapped it onto whatever machine they had bought and sold, like this Excelsior hacksaw. It's marked with a little tag screwed to the side of it, but it's an Excelsior hacksaw made in Pennsylvania. They must have had enough of a market for pedestal grinders that they figured they'd have some made. I don't believe Petrie had their own foundry. They probably went to some other foundry down in Hamilton where they were based, or Toronto, and had them made, and who knows, made a couple hundred of them and cast their name right in. So that's kind of cool about this one. So let's go ahead and start stripping it and cleaning it. One of the interesting things with this grinder, both of these are Babbitt bearings, and I believe originally these little drippers would have gone right in the tops, but the previous owner kind of reworked it and made a bit of a reservoir on the bottom. But you can see there are grooves on the shaft on both sides, and the Babbitt has divots in it. That's to prevent end play. It's a neat idea. I've never seen it on a smaller machine like this, or maybe as simple as this. You often see it on big sawmills and that type of thing. So if I take these out of the way, being careful to not lose the shims, and there, and take the shaft, you can see this interesting reservoir setup he kind of had. I'm not sure if maybe there was cotton or cloth in there at one point down in the bottoms. On the surfaces they look dirty, but they're very smooth. Babbitt is good, which is great. So I might put a little bit of cotton down in there so that you can fill this tube and it'll act as kind of a slowly diffusing reservoir which brushes against the shaft, keeps it lubricated. So that's a kind of interesting little touch on this guy. Other than that, it's very simple. There's one bolt to take off. This is the bracket for the spark guard. And it's going to just use a bunch of wire wheeling and get some paint going. The first thing is I'm just going to take the whole shaft to the wire wheel here on the electric bench grinder. You can see this would never run much. He had a V-belt, a motor hanging off the back with 2 V-belts. The pulley was painted. Big no-no. This whole thing is just going to stay unpainted, so I'll polish the shaft with this, and then this will stay as is. Cast or machined steel, I'm not sure what this is, but clear metal is the best for traction of the belts. Right, so grinder has been painted and now has dried. The color I went with was sand color, trim clad. Rust paint, I find their stuff sticks the best and has the nicest finish, and the paint has good density. You know, you spray paint something and it's only barely has a color and you need to do 5 coats. This stuff, for most of the colors, I only need 2 coats and it comes out thick and it's quite robust to getting dinged and dented, and oil won't make it lift and that type of thing. As long as you clean the surface before, good stuff. So I made an ash base out of rough sawn 2x4s, and I always like to put these machines on bases of hardwood because the gravel will really make them rust on the bottom. If you remember seeing this, the pedestal grinder that we're doing now, the bottom was all rusted out at one point. That's because it sat straight on cement for many, many years. And it just with the heating, cooling, and the moisture being held, it kind of wrecked itself on the bottom. So I'm going to move that over here. Going to have to do some twisting to make sure the grinder's lined up right. But no big deal. Okay, how does this look? Try and see if the bolt holes line up, because they're a little bit different. Perfect. Good. Okay, so the bolt holes line up. That goes together. I think for the writing, I'm going to go with a black so that it stands out. Normally I like to put a lighter color on the castings for the writing on the castings, but in this case it's kind of inverse. So yeah, let me move you over here and we'll put it together. here it is, the finished Petrie's Special Pedestal grinder with fine and coarse wheels. Got lucky and even found a wheel truing tool. This is a Desmond, Canadian Desmond. Painted it up the same scheme. It has good little spur wheels on it, so use that to cross the wheel to get rid of any ripples or ridges. All that's left to do is install the counter shaft and get the right size pulleys and try it out. So stay tuned for that, and till then, have a great day.